Morning, everybody. I'm going to make this quick because I've got a golf match to watch in about 30 minutes. So, been in this series called The Energetic Exchange, a Fierce Prioritization of Your Well-Being. Part 5, which is actually part 1 because we detoured and shifted because we live in America and we've had to talk a little bit about what's going on here. Good news, today we're getting to part 1. All right? I know. I think, unless there's breaking news in the middle of this talk. Part of the series was birthed from this question, how are you? And many of you are just honest and you're like, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I am weary. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm drained. I'm spent. I'm depleted. And some of you have even used the phrase, I'm burned out. And I get all that. What I want to do today is I want to step into the beginning conversation of this because I do think there are many reasons why we're tired. And you all have your own reasons. If you just have kids, you're probably tired. But you live in America, and there's just so much happening. So we've spent the last, I don't know how long, talking about just all the things that are happening around us and why we're so tired. Today, I want to shift it a little bit, and I want to just talk a little bit about us kind of owning our own responsibility of our own fatigue. I want to talk about what it really means to not be a victim to society that says you are to work this many hours a week. What it really means to not be a victim to a culture that speaks to us and shows us what they call, quote, the American dream that isn't working for us. I mean, how many of us bought into it? We wanted the house. We wanted the fence. We wanted the SUV. We wanted the 5 kids. That was a mistake. We wanted the boat. We wanted that car. And then we got it. And now that you have it, it just isn't what you thought it would be. Is there anything worse than being locked down in a mortgage in your dream home, but now you can't live? Because, well, that was the house. And then you get in it and you love it for like 2 months. But then you realize you can't even throw a party in the house because you can't afford to throw a party in the house because you got the house and now you have no money to actually live your life. Yeah, you bought in to an American dream. And for many of us, we work and work and work and we try to keep up and it just isn't working. There's like a something within us that just isn't satisfied. And we're just deeply exhausted by all of it, by all the hours we're putting in, by everything that's happening around us. And there's a part of that, if you're not careful, is you begin to feel like the victim going, yeah, it's everyone's fault that everyone is exhausted, but I have nothing to do with it. And what I want to say to you is you can choose to live your life as a victim. Or you can also, and here's the shift that I want to make today, you can also realize as awful as this administration is right now, as awful as it feels to live in America right now, as exhausting as it is to see what's happening in our world right now, I also have the ability to not let the authoritarian leader have so much space in my body and in my head and in my dreams that he contributes even more to my exhaustion. Because he might have some power and it might feel like it's unchecked, but there are some boundaries, and one of them is he doesn't get to exhaust me. You know what I'm saying? For some of us, we've given that man and his administration way too much power. And it's time to not let it go unchecked. It's time to begin to evaluate, take an internal audit. And that's what we're going to get to in this series. I want to talk about what's coming in. I want to talk about what's going out. That's the energetic exchange, all right? We need to talk about what's coming in. Because maybe one of the reasons why you're so exhausted is because if you took an internal audit, you would realize you're giving far too much conscious and unconscious attention to the things that should actually drain you. And so I want to talk about that. Now, all that said, today I want to I want to try to just set us up, like tee us up a little bit for the proper way of maybe understanding, viewing this of our own fatigue, burnout, exhaustion. Because there's something that's like a fundamental principle before we get into the internal and external audit. We need to talk about something that I don't know if many of us believe. I think we have bought into an idea that what I'm going to tell you today is actually selfish. And I want to explore that idea of being selfish. So I want to read a passage to you. This is found in the book of Leviticus. Now, Leviticus is an ancient text, but it's a profound text because what I want to read to you today is just sitting in the midst of all kinds of prohibitions that are given to the Israelites to take care of their weakest and poorest. In Luke chapter 18, 19, 20, you find what they call the holiness code. The writer talks about leaving a corner of your field for the poor and the alien. Do not oppress the neighbor. Do not exploit your employees. Do not discriminate against the disabled. Do no injustice. Show partiality in judgment or slander or witness against your neighbor. The writer's going at it. But in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17, he goes on to say this. You shall not hate in your heart any one of your kin. You shall not reprove your neighbor, or you will incur guilt yourself. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall, and here's the infamous phrase, love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Now I want to get straight to this. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now we spent the last 4 weeks talking about love your neighbor. It's hard for me to move from that one because I don't think we understand what it means when we talk about loving our neighbor. America, which claims to be a Christian nation, which isn't a Christian nation, but claims to be a Christian nation, understands loving your neighbor as terrorizing their neighbors, right? So we spent time talking about what's happening right now in our country with immigration. These are the very people who keep making claims that they are Christians and yet acting in ways that are so foreign to the way of Jesus. Now, that said, I need to shift because there's something in this truth that a lot of people don't even see or just kind of run over it, and it's this, okay? Love your neighbor, yes. But that little phrase, as yourself, is really, really telling. It's like the writer wants us to know something, and here it is. Implied in the commandment to love your neighbor is a prerequisite of loving yourself. Do you hear that? Love your neighbor as yourself. The starting place to loving your neighbor is loving yourself. The starting place is self-love. It's not love your neighbor before yourself. Pause, because I know some of you are like, now that's the way of Jesus. And some of you right now, you'd be like, now that's what I do. I love my neighbor before myself because I am a good person. I'm a good person. I'll lay my life down for the other. It's all about them. It's not about me. That seems so deeply spiritual. But what if I told you that's actually not what Jesus did? And what if I told you implied in this commandment is the antithesis to that belief? I know. You're like, whoa, that feels a little selfish. We're going to get into that word in just a minute, all right? It's not love your neighbor before yourself. It's not love your neighbor and not yourself. It's not love your neighbor then, if you have a little extra time, love yourself. It is love your neighbor as yourself. We are called to love ourselves and our neighbor in the exact same way. We cannot love our neighbor if we do not love ourselves. Your love for your neighbor is dependent on your love for yourself. If you do not love yourself, you will have no capacity and or energy to actually love your neighbor. And this is all implied in two phrases, love your neighbor as yourself. Now, the fundamental question here is this. Well, what does it mean to love ourselves? What does it look like for you and I to love ourselves? And this is the question that I want to try to get at and explore, because I think it's different for all of us individually in this room. But the question is, where do we start? And here's where I think we start. At the very minimum, loving yourself means getting fierce with prioritizing your own well-being. Prioritizing your well-being is not something you do after you've done everything else. Prioritizing your well-being is something you do up front. Prioritizing your well-being is not something you do after the important work is done. I can't tell you how many people I've met that are like, you know what? I'll get to taking care of myself after I get all of these things done. Here's what I like to ask. How's that working for you? And this is why I know this talk gets real touchy, because we're going to get into obligations, and many of you are like, I'm so tired. I hear you, but I want to ask you something. Are you 10 years from now still going to be saying, I'm so tired? What if I told you don't have to be exhausted all the time? I know. It's like, well, I don't. We've been so conditioned in a culture that is a pressure machine that all of us are like, I don't even know a world where I'm not exhausted. Imagine that. What if I told you there's a way to live where you're not walking around tired all the time? I know. What if I told you that's actually possible? Now, some of us, when we talk about prioritizing our well-being, if you created a list, like, give me your top 5 priorities for this week, you're like down at number 10, maybe. That's a problem, because you can't effectively do 1 through 9 if you have no energy for 1 through 9. And this is, by and large, why I think part of the reason our nation is where it is today is because the very people who have the capacity to actually say something are in such unhealth that they have no energy to even do anything. I get that. And here's the thing. You've got to prioritize it, right? This is what we mean. Prioritize your well-being. There was a time in Katie and our lives where it was before you people. I was reminded this week, by the way, of how grateful to God I am for this church, space, spiritual collective. I'm so thankful that all of you are here, because I was thinking about, we're coming up on 10 years for me as a lead pastor, and I was thinking about 10 years ago. I started flipping through photos, reminiscing, you know what I'm talking about? And I was like, man, all those people were great and lovely, but I just, full transparency, God, I can't tell you how tiring it was when I first became pastor here. Because every day for months, people would come down into my office. It was back when I had an office in here. I was a fool. I worked from the church. That was a terrible idea. Because turns out people like to stop by. Oh, there's the pastor's car. We'll just stop by. And they would stop by, and we had a full staff at one point. For those of you that don't know our story, VL 101's coming. We'll tell you more about it. But we had 1,200 people here at one time. That was the biggest we've been. And when I came in, I think there was 700 people. And we had a staff of 12. Many were part-time, but this is massive organization. We had plans for a large mega church we were going to build back here. We owned all this land. And then they hired me, and I killed it, like everything. I just killed it. And it was one of the most joyous experiences of my life, I have to tell you. But there was a season where, God, I can't even begin to tell you. I had no energy to talk about, anything that was going on in the real world. Politically speaking, I had no energy to talk about those who were being pushed to the edges, the vulnerable, the marginalized, because I spent all of my energies in my office, and one by one, people would come in. And the lady that was helping she was my assistant, she would text me before, and she'd say, Miss So-and-so's in the waiting area. And then and here's how I knew. We had this little code. She tipped me off, and then she would write underneath it, and she has tabs in her Bible. And that was our little code, because that meant she's coming in to disagree with your theological beliefs. And sure enough, they'd come in and they'd have these real hot pink and neon fluorescent tabs. And they had their Bibles marked. They were coming in to debate. And then they'd flip it open. They'd be like, you said same-sex marriage is good under God, but the Bible says it's an abomination. And I remember just going, and I can't even begin to tell you conversation after conversation after conversation after conversation. And I remember Katie and I coming home. And I remember sitting at tables with her night after night after night going, is this what we want to do? Trying to start a church like this in the heart of a Bible Belt that claims to be Jesus people, but they're the most ungodly humans I've ever met, that have zero desire to follow the path of Jesus, but yet they're convinced they're the closest to Jesus they've ever been. Is this what we want to do? And then I would see our LGBTQIA plus brothers and sisters showing up one by one, just beaten to pieces from mega churches around us. I mean, walking away from some of the biggest churches in Atlanta that are blowing thousands of people, millions of dollars, and these people would walk in and going, yeah, they refuse to baptize me because I like someone that's the same sex as me. And then they were real fuzzy about it. Like they were like, oh no, everyone's welcome. But then I signed up to work in the nursery and they're like, but not you. And they were all like, tithe 10%. It's interesting that 10% of a gay person is clean, but 10% of a gay person wanting to volunteer is unacceptable. That tells me a lot, actually. Are we okay today? Boy, we're going today, all right? And I remember, Katie and we've been talking about this because we're coming up, but I just remember being so tired. I mean, I was tired. I hit the ground running hard because I was like, oh, new church, new start, let's go. And then it started probably we had a good 6-month honeymoon. And I remember the very first person came up to me, and I've been thinking about this because I've been writing about this, but the very first person that left VL when it came up to me and just said, we're going to leave. And I was like, oh, awesome. Why? And they're like, because you quoted Eckhart Tolle. And I just remember just kind of smiling, because in my mind, I remember going, yeah, my recommendation would be for you to leave right now, because if quoting Eckhart Tolle is a problem where we're heading, because that man is like, he's like Mr. Rogers to me, theologically speaking, all right? But if that's a problem to you, then it might be best to head out. And then here's the thing. One by one, I remember another one came. They're like, you quoted Rob Bell. Rob was one of my good friends at the time. I'm like, yo, what's the problem with him? He believes everyone's going to heaven. And I remember people going, if there's not a hell, then why are we doing all this? Well, great question. And so I would ask them, if there is no heaven and there is no hell, would you still follow Jesus? Turns out they're like, nope. Great. And I'd always like to add how insulting it is for all of these evangelicals that came to God going, God, we want you. You didn't want him. You just didn't want to burn in conscious eternal hellfire for the rest of your life. But how insulting is that to God? Imagine going to God like, God, I don't really like you or love you or want anything to do with you. I just don't want that. Could you imagine if Katie came up to me and were like, you're not really my choice, but the alternatives are not very good, so yeah, I guess I'll pick you. God, get out of here. It was exhausting. I just remember us having Sunday nights. I can't tell you how many Sunday nights where we would gotten together and we would sit at the table and we'd be weeping and we'd just be like, God, and she was tired and I was tired. It's like, this is an uphill battle. It's like we're pushing this thing uphill and I don't even know if we can do this. I have no energy at all. And we began to slowly began to get some therapy and have some people help us, and they helped us prioritize our own well-being. And they taught me some things that we're going to talk about in this series. They taught me how to say no. I didn't even know how to do it. I thought as a pastor, you're supposed to say yes to every meeting. Every meeting. Now, it's flipped so much now that I had to check myself because I say no to every meeting. I do. People come up to me like, hey, I want to meet with you. I'm like, nope, not happening. All right? So I have to watch myself because the tendency is to shift on the other side, right? Yeah. We had to learn some priorities. I learned I don't have to take everyone's Bible and theological belief and sit and listen to them. I don't. I've also learned to help set other people free. And that's been a process because I'm like, hey, I remember back then trying to help set some people free. I stood up in front of a crowd of people and I said, hey, I just want to remind you all, nobody's making you be here. Like you don't have to come here. And if every time you come, you're leaving and you are just distraught by what you've heard and you can't take it anymore, there are thousands of churches around here that you could go to and some guy get up and be like, if you say this prayer, you'll go to heaven. Enjoy your week. And I started recommending them. Go down here, take a left down here, jump on Cooper Lake. You can go over here. Yep, there'll be a church there. Go in. They will never say anything theologically that you'll disagree with. Go there. And I said that, and check it out. They did. They did. They actually went. And it's wild because I remember thinking, my God, they actually went. And we had some hard discussions. There were people who walked out the front door. And I remember one person walking out the front door, and they were like, I got a problem with you. And I was like, stand in line. And they were like, you quoted Father Richard Rohr. And I was like, that guy, there's maybe 2 people, 3 people in all the world that I don't think bowed down and worships the god of mammon, money. I think that's our society right now. The more I'm getting into this political world, the more I'm realizing it doesn't even revolve around authoritarianism and Trump. It revolves around money. And even white supremacy, the more I dig into white supremacy, it's less even about race and more about money. And if there's ever idolatry, the truth is it's money. Isn't it what we all worship all day? How many of you would be at your jobs if it weren't for money? Yeah, we're all just bowing down all day going, give us money. We want money. We're bowing down to an almighty dollar because we believe it has the ultimate power and authority. And so the goal for me over the next 10 years, I'm like, what would it look like to somehow take the power out of currency? Yeah, one of the ways is you start giving it away. That releases it. It's like, oh yeah, take that. I know. So all that said, I remember her coming through and she's just like, I was like, what? Because I was just like, Rohr? He's like the most innocent human I know. So there's only like 3 people I know of that I actually believe have not bowed the knee to money. Shane Claiborne's one of them. I can't explain that guy. He has been a Jesus freak following man for years. And it just lives in sheer pretty much poverty. Like Mother Teresa, I think she was one of them. I actually think she was like, yeah, I'm not bowing the knee to money. And then Father Richard Rohr might be one of them. He doesn't take any money. He lives in just a small 1-bedroom thing in Albuquerque, and he just lives his life. He walks around in his little monk outfit. I'm like, God, man, I think I might do that one day. You know what I mean? Like, just like, where'd Cody go? Who knows? He gone. No. All that said, I remember them walking out, and then I remember looking at this individual who I had great respect. And these are all friends. Like, it's not like there were people that most of them we had all these relationships with, and they were just like, yeah, I think Richard Rohr's leading people astray. And I just looked at him, I'm like, do you think I'm leading people astray? And she said, yeah, I actually think you're leading everyone in here astray. I remember thinking, well, this might not be the place for you. Like, it's not that complicated. You know what I'm saying? It might not be the place for you. One more example. This week, someone kind of reached out in old school, and they're really upset at Vinings Lake right now because they said we're just too political. Now, we've talked about this before. You know what I'm saying? But I'm bringing this up because many of you have dealt with this in your families. You know, it's too political. We all know we've ran this basics before. 100% of the people that say to me you're too political are people benefiting from the political system right now. Not one time has anyone on the underside or the vulnerable of the oppressed ever said to me, "You're too political." Haven't had one yet. Haven't had one poor person going, "Would you stop talking about politics?" No, every person that says that to me, I'm like, "Oh, well, of course. You didn't want to get uncomfortable because it's working for you." Yeah, and I love it. It's like, we don't mind a little bit, but it's gotten overboard. Has it? Because I feel like I'm just getting started. Because just a reminder, this is years and years and years of stepping on the neck of people of color. That's what it is. And a decade into this, I feel like the fire's just being lit. I'm just coming into my own voice. You're just coming into your own voice. We're just starting. This is a brand new church. We're just coming together. All that stuff that happened for the last 10 years was just like warm up. It was just getting the thing ready for what we're experiencing right now. And look at us go. Look at us. Look at the people in this room. I don't know if you know this, at one point there were only 12 in here. 12. And then you people come. And I don't know, half you people I don't even know. You're new. Some of you I do know. Some of you have been crutch. You just in it. I mean, in it. I look down here at Martin's family. Martin right here. God, you guys have been doing this thing with us since probably the very beginning. From the very, very beginning. It's unbelievable. There is not that many. I think maybe 3 people in here have been here from the start. And I worry about those 3 people. I worry about their sanity. I ask them often, "Are you okay? We've been through a lot together." Yes, sir. In Martin classic voice, we don't know any better. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I say all that to just say, like this week, I want to help like set people free from that. And so like this week, someone reached out and they're like, "Oh, you're getting too political," and I remember thinking, you left a decade ago, and you're still trolling us? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like that's not on me. Do you hear what I'm saying? I want to help set you free. And here just talk about it. An internal audit, which we're going to give a whole sermon on internal audit. But I want you to audit yourself for just a minute, because this is good for all of us. Because I learned something in this audit with this individual. If you're 10 years later still hovering, what are you looking for? Is it that you're still listening because you know deep down inside there's actually some truth to what we're saying? Or is it that you're watching because you've been so possessed by your ego that what you want more than anything is to wait with bated breath for me to fall on my face? Both those scenarios, I don't want any part of. I'm not sitting around waiting on my worst enemy to collapse. I've got work to do. So I'm not sitting around trolling people so that I can like wait for them to say something so I can get them right where they are. No, I've got work to do. I've been caught up in a vision of what could be. As the prophet Isaiah said, something new is emerging amongst us right now. And he says, do you see it? Do you perceive it? And will you align yourself with it? Yes. That's what I want to give my energies to. Now, that all said, I remember us being exhausted. I remember sitting around this kitchen table and I looked at Katie and she's like, "Do you want to go on?" And there were many nights where Katie or me both said, "Let's just quit. I'll resign Sunday." I remember that. And we would go to bed and I'd be like, "Yep." And I would start thinking through my resignation talk. Like I'm not even going to tell the board anybody. I'm just going to walk up. That would be so Cody fashion. Just walk up. "Hey guys, good morning. That's my last Sunday. I'm out." "Where are you going?" "To the beach," and no one's ever going to hear from me again. Right? Yeah. We had many of those nights. There were many nights where we'd be so fatigued, exhausted after just all the conversations that we had. I remember Katie like stepping in to intervene and calling like one of my heroes, one who's mentored me. I remember there were nights where she'd call Rob and we'd be sitting around the kitchen table. We'd put him on speakerphone, and in great Rob fashion, he would just help us untangle all of the cobwebs that got tangled up. He would pull us out of our own melodrama. You know what I'm talking about? Because when you're in something, it feels like the whole world's in it. But then if you can get somebody from the outside and they bring a little likeness to it, they're like, oh, you're gonna be fine. And then somehow they'd help find the absurdity of it all and make you laugh a little bit. Yeah. But one time, when we were in the throes of it, I remember Rob sent me a message. I want to read it to you. He sent me a message because I think it fits so well with what we're talking about right now. Essentially, he was essentially like throwing out a little bit of firm truth that I needed to hear. Do you have people in your life like that? I love them. They're my favorite people because I trust them. I know they have my best interest in mind. I don't like it when people anyone who voluntarily signs up to be your accountability partner, do not let them. Do not let them. And also, if you didn't ask for an accountability partner and someone just chooses to be that, block that woman. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't personal. I'm just saying block it. You know what I mean? Accountability partners should be people that you trust, that have your best interest in mind. And you do need a group of people around you that can speak to you when you do things that need to be said. Okay? But I remember him being like, I need to tell you something. It's going to be a little firm. And in many ways, man, he kind of straightened me out because he's like, you get to choose what world you live in. And you can spend the rest of your days complaining and griping about how exhausted and tired you are, or you can actually do something about it. And I remember thinking, well, I don't know. It all feels out of my control right now. And that it was almost like he moved me from disempowerment to empowerment. To say, actually, you have more control than you realize. And there's something you can do. You don't have to be a victim to all of this. Like there's something you can do. And I remember, what is it? And this is what he said. I want to read this to you. And you'll kind of get the vibe of it. And this is the point. The point today is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. Implied in that command is a prioritization of your own well-being. And what I want to say to you is, like, you are responsible for your own well-being. No one else is going to take that. No one else is. No one else is going to help you with your well-being. You are responsible for it. Now, that said, here's what he wrote me. I love this. He said, Cody, number 1, love your wife. I was like, well, yeah, we got that one. Because we're in this together. So one thing I do want to say publicly, my God, I would not be standing here today if it weren't for this woman on the front row. I wouldn't. I would not be here. She is fierce. Fierce. And I mean, she will wield the sword in all the best ways for me and for what we're doing here. And I have been in arguments with her, and you don't want to mess with that. You understand what I'm saying? But I have won a couple of times. Love your wife. Give great sermons. I was like, you're right, yes. That's why I got in this business to begin with. I gave my first sermon at 16. I've been doing it ever since. I love it. I love this. And I know people have told me, yeah, because you're a narcissist, right? Like, I love it. I love that we get to have these conversations. What a joy that I get to share things that would have gotten me kicked out of many of churches. They did. I know. I was there. I traveled and spoke for 10 years. For 10 years, I traveled and spoke. And I remember when I really started coming into my own voice and sharing things like, this doesn't feel right. Why are you manipulating high schoolers? And I remember them going, you can't speak here again. I was like, fine by me, until the mortgage kept coming in. It's like, wait a minute, that was my job. How do I get paid? You got to start figuring out finances. I know. Yeah. Love your wife. Give great sermons. And then he said this, have stronger boundaries about what you interact with. I want to pause there for all of us. We got to get serious in here. We've got to tighten up our boundaries about what we're interacting with. I love this about you people. I've watched some of you. Some of you, it'd be easy to go online and spend your energies like, I got this person, bam. But you're like, no, there's a better use of my energies. Yes. Yes, it was Richard Rohr who said this: the best criticism of the bad is the practice of the better. Yes, that's the quote. That's the quote, okay? He kept going. He says, have stronger boundaries about what you interact with. He says, I don't do email before 3 p.m. I'm like, what if, I told Kate, I said, what if we set up a schedule? What if I forwarded all my emails to my assistant so then I didn't have to see them at all? Well, we could do that. And then what if she filtered through them and then not let through the gate ones that we knew were going to just suck the life out of me? Oh, we could do that. But then what if we set up a team of people around me that the emails she filtered, it could go to those people, and if they found anything as they worked through them that was of necessity to talk to, they could come to me. Now we're cooking. Yes. Yes. You can do this in your life too. You're like, I don't really have assistants. I don't have any more either. But there's a way to do this, right? Now check this out. Oh, I love this. He said, I never Google my name. I'm like, well, that's a big statement coming from him if you knew him. Because there's a lot online about him, and I thought, well, that's really cool. What if I actually, here's my translation, what if I stopped looking at all the online comments? And I did. And turns out it kind of works. I like the funny ones, so I do like people to send me the funny ones, but every now and then I'm just like, man, if I had given all of my energy to like those online people, like that, like I would have never had energy to do these things. I know. We keep going. He said, I don't go on Facebook or Twitter ever. He said, I practically quit all social media. I just go on to inform people periodically. Whoa, I don't know if I'm ready for that one yet, but I will say to you, you know social media is not a requirement to be an American. Let's check it out. You don't have to be on it. You don't have to be on it. I know someone sitting back here doesn't even have a cell phone. My God. Could you imagine? I'm saying you got to dream here for a minute. What if you canceled all of your social media? I'm not saying that's what you need to do. I'm talking about your energetic exchange. Right now, I feel energized, and so I've been ramping up the social media. You got to find your lane. I'm ramping it up because I realize we have a platform, and we have been called to speak out for those who cannot speak. So we're in a weird season right now, but it's a season where it's time to speak. And more specifically, it's detrimental because what happens with an authoritarian leadership or a wannabe authoritarian leadership is they silence voices. We saw it this week. We saw it this week with Paramount and Stephen Colbert. And we know how it works. Well, they said, no one's going to come out and openly be like, we canceled that guy because he's a critic of this administration. They can't. That's a lawsuit. So what you do is you spin it. Yes. But also pull back the curtain. You know we see it. We know how it works. Yes. Yes. He critiqued the $16 million that you gave to Trump. And then got in bed and then canceled the critic. Now I want to just pause here and say something. When you start canceling comedians, that is the start of a very slippery slope. Who's next? Pastors? Anyone who critiques you? Because the news media outlets got pushed out a long time ago that don't agree with his decisions. I'm just telling you, know how this works. Silencing of critics in voices is the start of something. He said, I don't go on Facebook or Twitter ever. See what I mean? He says, I choose what world I'm going to live in. Now, obviously, there are things that you can't avoid. But other than that, protect yourself. Cody, this is how you love yourself. Stop surrounding yourself with religious BS. Now, he goes on, but I just want to start. I love he did say, he said, the next question was, are you with me? It's like he's giving a sermon. He knew what he was giving, right? And I'm like, I am with you. And I had to learn. I had to stop surrounding myself. I don't hang out with pastors. I just don't. I don't like them. I don't. I just don't. Like, I'm like, get out of here. Like, I love do your thing in the world, but no. I don't hang around with like religious theological people a lot. I'm just like, like I got things to do. Like, and the things that I want to do with my life are not just sitting around going, well, what did this Hebrew word mean? I think all that thing's great, but I'm also just like, what about the immigrants? What about, like what, we need to talk about this. We live in a world, a country right now where we're still having debates and conversations about if it's true or not true that a man was with one of the worst pedophiles in American history. And it's not just a man, our president. The very images I'm seeing of the two of them together going, am I the only one seeing this? And tragically, and this is what I cannot fathom, people are still just justifying it. That was back in the day, God forgives. What? I'm learning more and more of how religious language is being co-opted in so many ways. Even the very idea, as beautiful as it is, as the forgiveness of God, can be used as a tool in the hand of the oppressor to continue to oppress. The very idea of God uses broken people, that is used in the hand of the oppressor to continue to oppress. And I would just like to publicly say, for what it's worth, I don't need to prove his name's on a list to know he's a sexual abuser. I don't. And you're like, why don't you? Because I have October 7th, 2016. It's called Access Hollywood. And that should have been the stopping line. And I know people are like, Cody, you got to get yourself back on Jesus, get straightened out, and stop all of this. This moment that we live in does not require us to stop and talk about a Jesus that wants to take you to heaven. This is the moment that we stop and focus on the Jesus that embodied the prophets in the Old Testament and turned over the tables and said to the world, repent. Repent. And this is what we're trying to do here. And so, let me add, but what about Clinton? I've heard people say this. I want to help us. Take him too. What about Hillary? If she's in it, take her too. Hold on. What about Obama? I know. Ooh, careful. I'm going to say this. If he is somehow connected, take him too. I want to be very clear. This is not about right or left. It's not about politics. It is called being a pedophile. And I don't know how in the world America has gotten to a place where I have to say this publicly, but that, my friends, is wrong. It's evil and it's a sin, and anyone who orbits the world of Jeffrey Epstein needs to be held accountable. It's not that hard. And if the Department of Justice is in on it and the FBI is in on it, lock them up too. It's not that hard. It's called justice. And this is what the Bible has been about from its origins. Yeah, I don't care who. I'm not like addicted, like, oh, this person's. No. I'm not playing that game. I mean, there are real girls who were manipulated and then trafficked. And we're all like, yeah, but is the letter authentic? What are we talking about? What happened to America? And then I look back and I go, what happened to America? And here's what really crushes me. I die inside a little bit. Oh my God. The very people that contributed to the world we have largely right now were the evangelicals that raised me. How is it possible the religion that carried the name of Jesus the loudest became the very thing that's created the problems we have right now? My mind is blown. And it's hard. And how to navigate it, that's hard, isn't it? I know. I get all of it. So if you're here and you're exhausted and you're tired, I get it. All I'm saying to you is make it a priority. I want to just say two thoughts here and then we're done. We're already gotten in enough trouble today, so here we go. First of all, some of you here are going, yep, I love what Rob said in that email. Tighten up the boundaries. We're going to talk about input, output in just a little while, in the next couple of weeks. But right now you're like, okay, so what is it? Just all I'm saying is this: consider prioritizing your own well-being and what that might look like. I want you to take time this week and think about how can you tighten up your boundaries. I want you to just will you start now, because we're going to need to do this over the next couple of weeks. Just start observing what you give your time to all day. How much are you scrolling? How much time? You can go and look on your phone. Just go and look. Go look at the data and see how many hours you spent on which app you've spent it on. Yeah, just keep a little log, a little record. I want you to write down your days. Like, how much did you give your time to in-person conversation? How much did you give your time to this conversation? How much media are you intaking? Just go look at all that. Yeah. All that said, we're talking about, first things first, prioritize your well-being. Now, you might say that can feel very selfish. There are more important things to do. Okay, here's what I want to say to you. Neglecting your own well-being for the well-being of others can appear as selfless, but it actually can be very selfish. Because underneath that mentality is like neglecting yourself because you have an incessant need to be needed by others. And I know sometimes it can appear so spiritual, but here's the thing. You can be, well, look how much I'm sacrificing. That sacrifice mentality can lead to burnout faster than you realize. And you can scream all day long, but I'm doing a good thing. Of course you are. But that good thing, if you're not taking care of yourself, will destroy you. Yeah, doesn't make it a bad thing. It's just a priority issue. You have to prioritize your own well-being. The work out there, the good work that you're doing out there, if you're not careful, can become a distraction from the work you need to do in here. And so you avoid yourself because you keep placing yourself, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. And it appears so spiritual, and it is great work, and we need you to. The reason we're having this conversation is because we need you to do that. But you can't effectively do that if you have zero energy to even wake up in the mornings. And so I'd like to say this: the quickest path to burnout is to see self-care as a luxury. The quickest path to burnout is to see self-care as a luxury and not a necessity. Taking care of yourself is not selfish, but essential to taking care of others. What's the purpose? Why are we talking about this? I want you to take care of yourself so you will have the energy to do that very thing for others. If you can't take care of yourself and love yourself, how are you going to take care and love others? You can't. And so when I say this conversation is needed, it's a necessity, it's essential, and it's essential for your own heart, for your body, for your mind, but it's also essential for your kids. It's essential for your family. And I'd like to just close here. It's essential for your country. I want to be the first to tell you, we need more of you people. The world needs more of you people. I don't know if anyone, because me, be like, I don't really get involved. You're here, so you're involved. We need your voice. We need your gifts, your strengths. We need you dialed. We need you disciplined. I need you like an athlete in training discipline. You understand that? This is what we need. This is what our country needs. Your kids need you dialed. And so I'd like to just get real serious. Think of it like starting a gym membership. We're about to get real serious. We've already done it around our team. We did it the last 2 years. I mean, cutting out all the stuff we used to do. Let's do this. All those things are great, but that's not why we're here. Let's just figure out that, and then let's go here. Yes, Taylor's Orgy helped us with that so much. Let's just get this out. What is all this? We actually did it physically. In the building, we walked in, looked at these closets, and we're like, what's all this? Oh, that's 2006. Get it out. Yes. Clean it up. Let's get serious. Let's get ourselves in shape, like spiritually speaking, so we can actually do the work that is in front of us. Okay, we'll stop there for today. Next week, we'll pick this thing back up. We're going to start doing an audit, and then we're going to talk about ways that we can start having sharper boundaries. And I want to teach you the art of saying no, all right? So we'll get to all that. Now, that said, man, I hope you have a fantastic day. I want to remind you of one thing before we leave. We're not going to be here next Sunday. Okay. So don't come in here next Sunday. But we'll be back August the 3rd. All right. And then all of our beautiful people are going back to school too. So this is your final week to do your vacation, do your thing. My God, especially after a sermon like this, get your rest. All right. Go outside, get your face in the sun. Get that solar power. You know what I'm talking about? Like, let that thing just like energize your body. Whatever fills you up, we're going to talk about that. That's coming up too. So it's not just moving stuff out. It's placing stuff in that lights you up, that fills you up, that inspires you, that gives you the energy you need. Yep. We're going to talk about all that, but get to that this week. All right. Oh my God. Thank you. Seriously, for letting me do whatever this is. I'm just extremely grateful for this space, probably more than I've ever been. I'm so thankful for you all. Peace be with you. We'll see you in 2 weeks.